brought to you by acidnation.com.
There's also that argument of like it being useful for certain things, but I think it's that not losing the human connection and spirit is like the thing that I would want to protect the most. And for me, that's creating, and it's also listening, and it's connecting. Just find ways to keep us like together as humans, rather than like finding all these divisive ways of pulling us apart and separating us. And yeah, it is terrifying, and like more people should be saying it's terrifying, and more people should be trying to protect what we have now. And I don't care if that's uncool. I don't care if that's boring. I don't care if I'm a boomer. I don't give a shit. Like, this is what every artist should be saying. Yes, utilizing it for a tool in certain moments, but, you know, making our lives easier instead, like, get the dishwasher going, great, all that boring stuff that I don't want to do, fine. But like creativity don't come from my creativity.
Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of classic line, isn't it? Like we thought we were going to have robots to do our washing, but actually they're writing poetry instead.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. I'm Scuba. This is Music Not Diving. Okay, I am back from holiday. I've been on holiday for the last few weeks. You may or may not have noticed that. Took a bit of time to put my feet up and actually work on some music for a change. So that was great. Really enjoyed it. The last thing I did before breaking up for holidays was record this episode of the podcast though in London. So we've been sitting on this for a few weeks. That's okay. Kelly Lee Owens is a really interesting producer. One of my favorite producers, actually, I think, of the last few years. She has made some great albums. She's very much an album artist. And the approach she takes to making music, I think, is really interesting and definitely worth digging into. The other thing about Kelly is that she talks really well about music. Like, when I prepare for these episodes, what I tend to do is listen to their previous appearances on podcasts and read their previous interviews. And sometimes they're terrible, right? They genuinely are sometimes awful. But Kelly's were great, and she absolutely lived up to that billing in this conversation too. So we talk about her albums, we talk about the state of the scene right now, the nature of creativity and the pressures that musicians face these days, and it's a really great conversation, so I think you're going to enjoy it. Just before we get into it, a reminder that you can support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Scuba Official. There are 2 tiers there. I do bi-weekly bonus podcasts, audio only bonus podcasts over on there, and it is the best way to support the show. If you don't want to do that, then of course subscribe to this channel, hit like on the video, head over to wherever you listen to podcasts audio wise, subscribe to us there too, and you know, all of that good stuff. So without further delay, let's jet over to the studio and check out my conversation with Kelly Lee Owens.
This is Music Not Diving with Scuba.
Kelly Lee Owens, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Really good. I'm tired.
So am I.
Yeah.
This is going to be a very downbeat episode of the podcast, potentially. Well, we'll see how we go.
We're in the same resonance frequency. I feel like this is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Okay. Do you want to explain your t-shirt to the audience? Because you were just explaining it to us off camera.
I would love to. This is like an original WWF before WWE.
Right.
Undertaker 1994 t-shirt. And
Amazing.
This is the first time I've worn it. So saved it for today. I know you're a fan of wrestling.
We are all fans of wrestling on the show. This is a wrestling friendly podcast. Absolutely.
Wrestling and synths.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So I have some questions that I'm going to start with. I've been reading your interviews, past interviews. There are lots of past interviews to read. They're actually quite good. Sometimes you read interviews and they're not good, but yours are good. So two things to start with. You're a black belt in Taekwondo. Is that true?
Yeah, I love how we've gone like straight into wrestling. I mean, and then the fact that
listen,
yeah. Hey, you know,
you gotta get the energy up somehow.
Exactly. I mean, in Wales, it's funny because I think weirdly I wanted to do lots of things. I wanted to do music, but then I saw gymnastics and I was like, I want to do that. Like, is there a class I could go to? In Wales, very limited access to things. Right. And there was only Taekwondo. Really? And then my dad was like, I think you and your brother should do this.
Where in Wales? Where you from?
North Wales, so grew up in a village called Bagill. It's very close to the English border.
Okay.
But I ended up training with the girl who now has the gold medal for the UK for Taekwondo, so
Okay,
Jade
champion.
Jones. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's kind of that thing, a segue point where, you know, she decided to continue with that. And then I sort of found music and that music community, and I think like split ways.
But I mean, black belt that's an achievement in itself.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm like 5'2", like girls got to defend herself somehow, you know, so those skills
Right.
never leave you, let's just say.
No doubt. So is there any sort of notable crossover in the two skill sets, or perhaps the mentality required to reach a level of, you know, proficiency?
Yeah, there were 5 tenets of Taekwondo, which are courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit.
Right.
So just to go in deep there, it's like, I think that genuinely has been sort of ingrained in me and has always stayed with me. And
So can you repeat those?
yeah,
The
so
and myself.
yeah, like another so courtesy, integrity, self-control, perseverance, indomitable spirit.
Yeah, I mean, you need
that,
those
I think that
things
was the wrong order,
in
but
the
yeah,
music industry, absolutely, to be successful. I think,
100%. And
especially, you know, you had to have a consistent level of success as well.
it take that indomitable spirit particularly, I think, is the most valuable, because there are so many knockbacks, setbacks where you literally question, what am I doing, over and over again? And it has to come back to a sort of certain spirit within you where you have this ridiculous amount of self-belief, even when nobody has that or sees it in you.
Especially then.
Especially then. And I think also, like, when you're younger, having that sort of a practice helps with self-discipline and other things. And, you know, I was like North Wales and Chester patterns and sparring champion for a bit.
Wow.
You know, so I feel like it has stood me in good stead, and I've been fighting my way through the music industry ever since.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We'll return to that. The other one I had written down was to ask you about the haunted hotel that you stayed in.
Which one?
I don't know. There was one that stuck out. I forget which interview it was. I mean, the reason it stuck out is I stayed in a haunted hotel once in San Francisco, and it was genuinely terrifying. So tell me about your...
I mean, experience. I will say, like, being Welsh is just kind of generally quite spooky, I think. Yeah. I mean, the first thing I thought of is the house I grew up in. Like, that was haunted. So it used to be an old coach house, and there was, you know, a fire.
Horseman type vibe.
Yeah, and my dad was like a carpenter, and he thought him and my mum were like, let's buy it and do it up. And it was very grand, but, you know, they got it on the cheap because of the fire and everything else. And he built it up, and it was so beautiful. But I remember having nights where we'd have a babysitter come, and I get woken up and it'd be like, hey, Kels, at midnight. And I was like 5. Do you want to play? And I thought, wow, this is sick. Yeah, I do. But not knowing that she'd heard people speaking old Welsh in the kitchen, chairs moving by themselves, the TV doing that very classic static thing. And they were like, babysitters were always very scared. And so they'd come and like wake me up. And
wow,
I've had dreams and all sorts of things. Okay. So that's just my childhood. And so I'm never like super afraid, but I am interested in the things that we can't always sort of quantify yet do experience.
Okay. So
that coffee's kicking in.
Yeah, right. How literally do you believe all that stuff? Because I mean, that's always the sort of push and pull when you have an experience which is sort of in that kind of uncanny kind of area, right? And it challenges lots of your preconceptions and all the rest of it. Like how far down that road do you go?
It can only be based, I think, on your experience. So for me, I've experienced so many different things that at this point it would be ridiculous not to believe in something other, which maybe is just perhaps energy, however you want to label it. But I have everything from like having dreams that come true to having seen things and experienced things. And so like for me, it's quite real.
Can you be specific?
Yeah. So, well, there was one time in that house, for example, I dreamt that I was walking down the stairs. It's like a double staircase. And the second time I was walking down, there were like rows of couples, like, you know, walking up the stairs, one in like a top hat, one in a big bouffant skirt I've never seen before, and like a cane. And they were floating up past me row by row. I could see all the details of their clothing and everything else, and but also see through them. And I woke up the next morning, my mum was like, oh, by the way, you slept walk downstairs last night.
Right.
And I saw everything, and I know what I saw. And then I've seen shapes and other things. And then I've dreamt a lot of stuff that comes true. I have quite psychic thing. I know things, and things have happened consistently in my life and coming from Wales, that's not like a big deal. It's not, the most crazy thing ever.
I'm not familiar with this aspect of Welsh culture, I have to say.
Yeah, well, mythology. I mean, we have all of the kind of wizardry and druidic traditions, where there is magic, and just because we can't quantify it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And it's like, but again, that's just about your own openness to things, and I think your experience. And for me, that very much is fed into my intuition when it comes to making music. So it's all connected for me.
Okay, right. So being, as you were saying that, I was like, how are we going to move this back to music? But you've actually just done that in quite a neat kind of a way. So being Welsh is a big thing for Welsh people. That's a really obvious thing to say, but it really genuinely is. Like it seems like it's different to, different parts of Britain and Ireland. I mean, I've Irish heritage, but I was born in London, grew up in London. And I have a sort of love-hate relationship almost with my Irishness and also my Englishness as well, to be honest. But and Scottishness, the Scottish nationalism thing has kind of like acquired a lot of momentum in the last couple of decades. Welshness is very much its own thing. Can you talk a bit about Welshness as a thing in itself, discrete entity?
It's I actually do feel like all the Celtic lot, we have a lot in common because we've all been oppressed by the English state at some point. So
I got both of like the love-hate thing just happened in my brain at the same time.
It's complicated though, isn't it? And it very much is about people in power, not the people themselves, right?
Right.
But it's really good to understand your history and where you've come from, and therefore who you are, in order to be able to like make decisions in the present moment and for the future. I was told in Wales that, the language was dying, but I wasn't told why. And so I had to go on my own quest to understand that history. And, I think there's a difference between nationalism and patriotism. Without patriotism, a lot of Celtic culture would have died. And so I see it as patriotism, not nationalism. Mm-hmm. Nationalism is when you're kind of part of an oppressive
nationalism is like at other people, isn't it?
Once you're already like established and good and have oppressed other people and then are like super proud of that fact, perhaps that's nationalism.
Right.
When you come from an oppressed nation, it's very different. Like the patriotism is the thing that keeps it alive. And, we have it in our national, ironically, anthem, which is always talking about and singing about our language and how we need to protect it and our land and things. And so I think it's a very strong identity because it's had to be, because without it, it wouldn't have survived. So that's really important. And, there was a time where we couldn't sing or speak in our own language, and that grief is carried, intergenerationally, I think. And that's the same for all Celtic nations. So I think that's where it comes from. It's a survival thing ultimately, but I do feel at the moment there's a little bit of a Welsh renaissance in our
the language is very well represented now, isn't it? Certainly comparatively to previously, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then even everything from culinary, feats like having Michelin star restaurants and people seeing our produce and understanding our culture and, where things have gone and where things are going, and really the richness of the land in all ways, but having Welsh people enjoy that and present that instead of it being taken in that sense, and, Michael Sheen, who's a dear friend of mine and has been in my video and who I've connected with, he's taught me more than I was ever taught in school about who I am and our past. And at the moment he's doing a play at the National Theatre, Nair and Bevan, called Nye, about the founder of the NHS who was Welsh. And so there's lots to be proud of, I suppose. And yeah, so that's where I'm at with my relationship to where I come from.
Right. And music is a very big part of the Welsh kind of national identity too, right? Oh,
absolutely. I think it is for most nations. I think song, it's like...
I mean, singing especially, right? There's a very strong tradition of people being very good at singing, right?
The catharsis of it. And what's interesting to me is there's lots of male voice choirs. I mean, everyone sings.
Right.
Being in a choir is, I have said it before, but like national service, you're just put into one and then they sort of like, weed you out.
Right.
But everyone's encouraged to express themselves in that kind of very positive way. And I think coming together as a community to sing, there's nothing sort of more beautiful than that. Absolutely. And the fact that men especially, who don't tend to be encouraged to express their feelings, come together to sing in resonance, and it's the most emotional thing.
Yeah, that whole close harmony thing it's amazing when you hear it actually done, like in the flesh, right? It's pretty amazing. Incredible.
Absolutely. I'm at some point I'm definitely going to have like Welsh choirs involved in the instrumentation, I think, of sound in a future album. It's already there, the things I would like to do with that, because the voice is so fundamental and powerful.
Sure.
Music Not Diving is brought to you by Acid Nation, formerly AC55ID.com. Acid Nation is basically the same service with a few little tweaks, so it's still the fastest growing electronic music marketplace. Whether you're selling music, buying music, listening to music, Acid Nation is the place to go. If you're a label doing vinyl, they can help you with that because they have their own pressing plant. Streaming payback rates are 1 cent per stream on the platform, and they also pay podcasters 1 cent per stream. That's pretty amazing. And of course, the other great thing about them is that they're supporting this show. So head over to acidnation.com to check them out.
Yeah, I mean, choirs are... It's amazing, isn't it, really? Because, I mean, one of the things I've talked about quite a bit on the show is, well, I've certainly kind of alluded to it anyway, is the decline of music education in schools. And the general kind of like, I suppose, I was going to say dumbing down, and maybe not quite put it like that, but the choir, and often, in America, it tends to be church choirs, doesn't it? That's a real opportunity for kids to learn about proper music kind of thing. I always use that term as well, as it's coming out of my mouth, thinking that's not a way of putting it, which is actually that great, but it is extremely valuable. And certainly, and again, using the example of the States, like so many amazing singers came through church choirs. I mean, Beyonce is the obvious one, but like there's lots more too, right?
Yeah.
This is something which is really, really valuable, right? Particularly in the context of like the fact that so little music education happens in schools these days.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's fundamentally, it's actually about community, a sense of belonging to something, first and foremost. So however you feel within yourself, I feel like the community gathering around you is like the most fundamental thing. And I think that does link to music ultimately. Again, as a solo artist, I will say, like, we can come back to that, but that's been a huge part of my story. And then, yeah, like, I remember singing an a cappella version of a boy band track in the 90s, in assembly, and that was normal. And so
that's got to be nerve-wracking.
Well, when you're young, actually you do have a little bit more of that. You're not quite aware like of how crazy that might be. Like doing that now, I'd be absolutely terrified. But to be given those opportunities, literally to be given a stage, a platform, to sort of express yourself and find out what works for you and what doesn't is so valuable to your sense of like belonging and growing confidence as a young person. Yeah. And like say, music is a safe space for so many people for plenty of reasons. And so all of those things combined, I feel like music education and opportunities to be part of something like that, it's one of the most valuable things that kids need. It's nourishment ultimately.
Totally. Yeah. Did you play instruments when you were kids too? Or
I'm giggling because I'm in the primary school mode of thought right now. I did try to play recorder.
Okay. Everyone did that though.
Terrible.
Really?
Really bad.
I think it's deceptively difficult as an instrument to get started on,
Why are we playing? What's that about? I mean,
quite hard to get a good sound out of it,
Yeah. And also I remember like standing there playing the wrong notes and then sort of someone being like, oh, did you hear Sean? She was so out of tune. And I was like, oh, that was me. But it's because I couldn't read or write music and I still can't. So the recorder wasn't for me, but what was for me was the voice and also drums. Like,
yeah. I read that was your first proper instrument.
Obsessed with drums.
Yeah.
And
so did you have a drum kit at home?
No, I didn't. My mum, no.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed one either. I honestly think, I think my life would have been fundamentally different had I been allowed to have a drum kit.
Yeah.
I really did.
Even in Wales, like, because there's more space, you know, generally you can make, I think my mum was just not up for that. That was just once. That
you kind of understand.
Yeah.
You know, you get a bit older, like, yeah, maybe wouldn't be that great.
Yeah. But I mean, you do need to practice, right? Like all the best drummers are like practicing constantly every day. So in the music department, that's where I practiced. But I wouldn't call myself a drummer because of that reason of like the discipline it takes. And like, if you sat me in front of one now, I'd be like so terrified. But it just felt so instinctual to me. And then I ended up doing like, we had 50 djembes locked in a cupboard somewhere in the music department. And I was like, could I do an African drumming competition? And they were like, well,
How old were you at this point?
15.
Okay. GCSEs.
16 GCSEs.
Yeah.
And as someone who couldn't really read or write music, I was like, this is perfect. Obviously, there's reading percussion, but it felt very instinctual to me. And so I set up in the drama theatre like 3 sections of drummers. Wow. And I was like kind of conducting it. Thinking about it now, it's quite
That's
mad.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I need to find that. I'm going to say it, mini disc.
Right.
That just gives away my age, which I'm okay with, but I've got to find that mini
You're
disc.
younger than me, so it's okay. It tends to be like people of a certain age popping up on this podcast. So I think you're probably on the younger side of our previous guests. So, yeah. But so you did music GCSE without being able to read music.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I'm trying to remember what my music GCSE was like. I think it was too rigorous in terms of theory stuff. But
But I think there's a lot of like aural learning. So I would be singing like Baroque pieces, having learned it aurally.
Yeah.
And like I always had that musical memory more so than reading. And I think that's the other interesting thing is that there's different styles of learning. And I was so aware of that.
I don't necessarily think it's a prerequisite at all. And it's clearly not a prerequisite to be good at music. But I mean, some people have, we've had many discussions actually on this podcast about how valuable it actually is.
Yeah.
Having a high level of theory. And opinions are divided on the matter, usually along the lines of people who have it and don't have it. But I mean, it's clearly not it's clearly not a prerequisite at all because.
No, because all I have to go off is instinct. Does it feel good to me? Does it make sense to me in that way? And so I'm like almost like blindly being led by feeling. Spoke to Bobby Gillespie. He doesn't really write. He feels similarly, but it's good to hear it from other people because there is a level of shame sometimes that can be placed on you. Maybe not so much now because of technology and how things have changed, but you know, what is a real musician? You know, sometimes that level of shame is kind of there sitting in the background.
Yeah, totally. I think most people now don't have theory knowledge. And, you know, I think, and to some extent, I feel conflicted about this because, I mean, I don't think it's good that, I mean, it, you know, disappearing, which is totally on the, on the range of outcomes that it might happen just because it's not necessary and just because there's so many tools that do it for you. That's not good. But equally, sort of fetishizing it and making it into something which you absolutely have to have, as I said, it's evidently not necessary. But I mean, you know, there's a kind of
place for
conflict there, right?
100%. And obviously, there are days where I wish I could just like sit down and, you know, work with certain people, and they're like, "Yeah, it's like a D, you know, minor," and I'm like, "Okay, cool," you know. And sometimes I wish I could. It's a language. It's a language. It's another way of communicating.
Yeah, that is what it is. Yeah.
Which is so beautiful. And as I say, you know, sometimes would be really helpful. And is frustrating in moments that I don't know that. As it is that I don't speak Welsh as a first language, you know. But I will say, coming from a working class background, I think there aren't lots of opportunities either apart from school up to GCSE, which isn't enough time to really learn music because you're not actually learning theory until a certain age anyway. It's like you'd have maybe 2 years to learn it if you really wanted to. There aren't many opportunities to really go and practice that either. So it's all about like equalizing opportunity as well, which I think technology is that leveler. A little bit more so, but both are vital, I think, in very different ways. And when I first started playing a live show, that's mad. I'm just me on stage now, but I used to have a cellist, right? Because I was going for Arthur Russell, you know, playing through pedals. I was like, "You're my little mini Arthur Russell," you know, this guy who come from Goldsmiths. But I remember talking to him and saying, just trust yourself. Just follow your instinct, do your thing. Like, I trust you, have fun. And he was like, I've never been taught how to do that.
Right.
He just, his whole life had been taught to color inside the lines. I think that is the only sort of negative, perhaps, thing that comes from training is the rigidity in terms of like not being able to trust yourself because you're taught to do the opposite for good reason. So that was interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, you basically told him to improvise. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that if you're not used to that, that's pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
That's a scary thing to hear, right?
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, because I mean, improvisation is like, I did music A level, and that was one of the assessments was you could choose. So it's modular, you could choose, but one of the assessments you could choose was improvisation. And guitar is my instrument, so it was like, to me, because I played in bands, I've been writing songs, and I just used to jamming around on the instrument. And to me at that time, the standard required to get a good mark in my improvisation module was laughably low. I could just sit there and play chords for a couple of minutes and get an A, because in the sort of classical disciplines, they just don't do it. Right.
Yeah.
So or at least they it's much less of a central thing. So the people that, you know, when you know, when you play in bands, when you play any of that kind of stuff, when you're making electronic music, improvisation is the absolute core of the whole thing, right?
100%.
Which I guess means is maybe the reason why you can get away without theory. You can just kind of like, you just do it, and if it sounds good, it sounds good, right?
Yeah. And so like, how did you go from that classical thing to then improvising in terms of like electronic or, you know, that world?
So basically, my first goes at making tunes were in the music tech lab at my sixth form college in Finchley, and I was the only person who was remotely interested in it. So basically, there was like a couple of synths and a you know, dodgy copy of very early version of Cakewalk, it was called then, which I believe it turned to Sonar. And I would just sit there for ages, and my music teacher would look the other way when I skipped my maths class. She'd be like, "What are you doing in here?"
I skipped maths for singing lessons, and then
I got
it's always maths. It's always maths.
It's like I could go to maths, or I could just continue writing my amateurish techno tunes.
Maths or music. I mean, it was me too.
Right. And I would make these tunes which were so like just like 3 minutes of kick drum, but like kick drum coming out of a, you know, MIDI synth kind of thing.
Yeah,
and my music teacher just be like, "What is this music you're making?" Like,
you're like, I don't even know.
Yeah. Right.
But I love how you said like, I was just sat there for ages. Because let me just sum up being a producer.
Yeah, that's a pretty good,
It's all about just sitting there for ages. That never changes. I think that's
waiting for magic to happen, basically. I've said this before, like, I've sat for over a year waiting for the magic to happen. You just got to turn up. It's just like, it's like, oh God, this is bad. But I know it will eventually have, the wheel will eventually turn to the, you know, to enough that it, you know, feels right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it. It's like, it's up to you to show up. And actually when I do show up, which, you know, I work really hard, but like, it happens quite quickly, seemingly. I do enjoy working with other people, though, because I'm someone who can get very self-critical and I'll kill my darling, so to speak. Like, great example. I know you've had Lawrence Hart on the podcast before. We were together in the studio yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And writing, producing together. And then I'm like, oh, I've just got this melody in my head. Let me just like lay it down. But I get really self-conscious. So I'm like, do you mind just leaving the room? Because I always record vocals and write melody and stuff myself. And then I listened back, I was like, oh, there's nothing here, man. There's nothing here. And then he comes in the room and he was like, oh my God, this is sick. This is amazing. And I was like, really? You know, I'm still so self-critical. And sometimes you need some other person, human, to bounce off, to be like, I hear the potential there. And that's one place I would say that, like, if I'm left by myself for long enough, I'll stew in it, I'll marinate, and I'll be like, I've got something. But I found it interesting and quicker to work with other people because straight away they're like, I can hear something here. And like, that's really fundamental for me in my process, is what I've realized as well. Because I think sitting there for ages by yourself, it's a beautiful thing, but like collaboration ultimately for me
it's always the most efficient way of doing it. Yeah, I mean, collaboration is something you've done a ton of, right? And your list of collaborators is also quite impressive, to be honest. Like, how did that happen? I mean, did the importance of collaboration reveal itself to you gradually, or was it something that, you talked to immediately?
Well, I think just, not being able to operate logic as quickly as I would like from day one. Because I'm quite impatient in some ways. I was like, I'm going to find someone who can do this like really quickly because I know exactly what I want. I just need someone to. So in a way, it was started there. And I would work with maybe one person, and that was it, because I was very protective of what I do. Like, to the point where I would just deliver albums to labels. I wouldn't even let them hear demos. That's changed as of Dreamstate only. So like 2 years ago, started to send people stuff in advance during the process, because I just felt there was this purity. I needed to just go in and like do my thing. But I think it was, post-pandemic, me being like, okay, done 3 albums, and now I'd really like to open up that process and push myself to be basically uncomfortable by doing what people call sessions. And I hate that word.
Yeah. I still find that whole concept quite scary, to be honest, but
it is scary. It is. You're showing up half the time with people you don't know, or people you do really know.
Yeah.
And you love, admire, and respect. Suddenly you're in a room with them. It might have been something you dreamt about for forever. And then all of a sudden it's happening and you think, I've got to, wait, can I swear?
Yeah, you can.
Okay. And you think, I'm in the room with the Chemical Brothers or Bicep. And, it's happening, and or in a room with John Cale, as I was for Corner of My Sky, but then something else kicks in. I think it's like, hang on, they're here because they like what I do. Like, you sort of see yourself in a slightly different way. Like, we're equals here, and I think that's the beauty of it, is like we're all just music fans at the end of the day, is what you realize, But it is good to be uncomfortable.
Something that sounds good, basically.
Yes, but being uncomfortable and putting yourself in like rooms with people who scare you or you don't know, and it's a bit awkward at first, has been some of the most like satisfying collaborative stuff I've ever done. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, right. Okay. Let's talk about albums. The first year or so of this podcast, I basically asked the same question to everyone, which was concerning the relative importance of the album format and how it's changed over time. You're very much an album artist, aren't you? That's how you kind of define your output and get the impression. Yeah. So tell me, how do you think about albums, generally speaking? Is it something which has changed in your mind over time? Do you think the importance of it, I think the audience's perceptions of it has changed? Just talk to me about it generally.
I don't care what anyone says. The weight of an album will never change, weaken, differ for me. And I think you can look at when you work with a team of people, if you say, oh, I'm going to release an EP, they're like, oh, cool, great. Like, we'll get, we'll do it. And when I'm releasing an album, they're like, whoa. Right. Let's get the prep. Let's do that. It's like this, the weight of that story is one of the most important formats for me. And I think for the music industry really has been built around that initially. I know that's seemingly changed. Yeah. I mean, just on that, because you're absolutely right. People in the industry definitely do take it extremely seriously. But do you think that's a bit out of date in itself? The industry can be very conservative. Is this an example of Not to me. Sure. I don't follow trends, even when sometimes, maybe you should. I'm a storyteller. So for me, that format is a way of capturing, and it's just a moment in time, but it's a story, it's a body of work. And I feel like it's still, I think will always be the foundation of the music industry. I think we will come back. There are trends and things change, and certain things will never go back to how they were. But I do feel like artists ultimately will always come back to that format. I don't think it's outdated. And I think it's going to be more important in the future, ultimately. Right. Wow. That's a big statement. That's my intuition on it. That's my feeling. Okay. Yeah. What's your story? It's people to trust you. It's also like commitment to creating something that is like meaningful in a very deep way. I think we're going to get very sick of superficiality very quickly. We already are. we're already overconsumed, overstressed, overstimulated. I think that format's going to come back to a sonic place to be in a way that can only be held by a full length record.
So this is the optimistic outlook for the industry. It's not always articulated on this podcast. No, that's good though. I mean, I think, I suppose I have a slightly different view, but maybe it's sort of consistent because, I mean, my perception is that recording music is, in terms of its value, financial value, so much as anything else, is in terminal decline. But I don't think music is in terminal decline. And I think that, live performance is going to be much more valued in future. And when I say live performance, I mean, I think the merits of being able to play an instrument to an extremely high level those people are going to get paid way more in the future. But I can see that, I could definitely see that recorded music, like recordings of performances and performances of concerts in the way that you're talking about, it's a slightly different thing to writing an album, but you still have to write the music and
people come to see. So when you think, if we're connecting live as well, it's been talked about a lot, but Brat, for example, they're coming because you're in the Brat universe. They're coming because that person has put out this world. It's part of world building. Albums are fundamental to world building. Even if you just care about marketing, you don't care about music. Albums are presenting a moment to bring people into the funnel of live music as well as anything else. So I don't think the importance of them are going to wane personally.
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. The Brat thing is a good example.
People want to belong to something.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. That's my view. That's only my view.
It's absolutely plausible. Yeah. So, obviously AI music and that AI band whose name I'm blanking on now, has been in the news a lot recently. Do you know the one I mean? No. I think they're called the Velvet Sunrise or something. Yeah. It's kind of an intentionally clickbait thing. Yeah. But I mean, and the degree to which that Spotify is directly involved is also slightly opaque, which is another story. But so you're kind of, I mean, you've made a positive case on the one hand for technology, but everything can go too far. Yeah. And, purely generated music by AI probably is in the bucket of going too far. Yeah. Do you use any AI tools in production? That's a different question. Because I mean, like the positive case for AI in the creative industry, generally speaking, is people using it as tools to access things, like or make things easier, smooth the path or whatever. What do you think about that?
I mean, plugins AI. I mean, some of them. Yeah. I mean, I've used plugins for stuff for sure. I can't say I've ever used people using them to separate out stems and things. I've never done that. That's happening. That's
fun, actually. I would recommend having a play around with that. Yeah, it's totally fun.
Do you know, I do, and maybe this is me being archaic or whatever you want to call me, but like, that is a part of it. I do think that like sucks as an artist because I think that your stems are your DNA. Talk about being sat there for days on end and like pouring your soul into it.
And some was just going to like pull it apart and like, judge you on your...
But that was the one thing that like, that's what you've created. It's like the body parts, and all of a sudden someone has access that. That's quite mad to me. Yeah. I'm aware that it's happening and it's going to continue to happen. And like, it is what it is. And I'm aware also that like, that can give some people opportunities to create other things. But I think it's just about placing the value on artistry. And I always come back to the pandemic because I'm like, try getting through another one of those without music, film, any kind of artistry. Take all the art off your walls. Get rid of your sound system. Take away anything that's been created like out of someone's brain, Can't get through life without that. So the value does need to be placed. I'm not saying it is being placed on artistry and artists, but like, that is always something that I will support. So I have kind of a lot of issues with AI, as many people do. It's not something that like I necessarily want to overtly support, but I'm also aware that like things do change and are changing. But yeah, it's not something that I feel super comfortable with. I might be stating the obvious and I might sound like a boomer, but who cares?
I mean, it is, I think, inherently unsettling, right? And certainly I mean, the way it is now, where it's all seems fairly relatively low level, you know, chatbots and whatever. But then, you know, you listen to any of the people who are, you know, the professionals doing it, and, you know, it's constantly like, in 2 years' time, it's going to be like, you know, running the world, which is, I mean, it is fundamentally pretty scary.
It is. And then there's also that argument of like it being useful for certain things. But I think it's that, not losing the human connection and spirit is like the thing that I would want to protect the most. And for me, that's creating, and it's also listening, and it's connecting. It's find ways to keep us like together as humans, rather than like finding all these divisive ways of pulling us apart and separating us. And it is terrifying, and like more people should be saying it's terrifying, and more people should be trying to protect what we have now. And I don't care if that's uncool. I don't care if that's boring. I don't care if I'm a boomer. I don't give a shit. Like, this is what every artist should be saying. Yes, utilizing it for a tool in certain moments, but, you know, making our lives easier instead, like, get the dishwasher going, great, all that boring stuff that I don't want to do, fine. But like creativity, don't come from my creativity. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of classic line, isn't it? Like we thought we were going to have robots to do our washing, but actually they're writing poetry instead. Yeah. You know, it's not for me. I know people like, oh God, you have to catch up. And I'm sure I will in some ways, like, as things change. So do you not use ChatGPT or anything for anything? I have used it to try to communicate better in an email to my lawyer. Okay. What am I trying to say here? And then I was like, this doesn't sound like me, or actually isn't getting to the core of what I was trying to say. Yeah. So it just didn't do it for me. And I think that it's scary to be, and always has been, for example, writing lyrics, poetry. But when you push further beyond where you start and you get it, and this is the thing, it's that I'm going to come back to what you said about sitting down, just sitting there. The reward for that is just beyond anything else. So I would always say to people to like push beyond, and don't take like the easy way, because it's not fulfilling for yourself. And you're like, why do I feel like it's like you're not doing anything that's like fulfilling your soul, as I see it creatively. And that requires time, and that requires patience, and that's it. Totally. Yeah. I mean, the idea that there is some kind of short, I mean, writing lyrics is a great example, actually, because I mean, you can't take a shortcut to that, because, like you said, you won't ever reach the, you know, the difficult stuff, or the stuff which is difficult to get to. You're kind of chipping away at the coal face. Yeah. And you've got to, you know, at one point you'll hit the right place and the wall will come down, but it takes quite a lot of hits to get there. It does. You know? It really does. And that's great. Like as it should. Yeah, it should be difficult. Yeah, that's something I totally agree, totally vibe with. Like, it should not be an easy process. It should be extremely hard. It's all the quests in life. It's all let's go on that side quest. Let's go on this main quest. Like, this is what makes life interesting. So for me, and I don't care how romantic it sounds, like it is to me. So when you were first asked to make an album, was that very exciting to you, or was it scary, or was it a bit of both? I was thinking about that yesterday, because I didn't realize I was making one. I knew I wanted to, but before I got signed, I put out my own vinyl, because I was working in record stores, and I met. You worked at Pure Groove, didn't you? I used to go to Pure Groove in the 90s as a teenager. In Archway. In Archway, yeah. That seemed like a vibe. That was the OG shop, right? It was one of them, yeah. And certainly in North London, it was a pretty important place. Yeah, was that it was like Morrissey Garage, like UK Garage? It was, Locked On had their offices, I believe. But it was one of those places, just like lots of great tunes in there. So good. Yeah. I worked in the newer one in Farringdon. I also worked at Rough Trade East. Okay. So moved, didn't it? Yeah, sorry, go on. Yeah, no, just and then Sister Ray. So I worked in 3 over 10 years. And for me, I was like just writing music, and then put out Kalo 01, Kalo 02, because I was like, well, I'm not going to wait around for someone to tell me this is good. I'm just going to press it myself. A very DIY mentality. So that's what I did. And then I hand delivered it out to record stores.
Okay. So tell me what it was like going into the record store with your tune for the first time and watching them listen to it.
Do you know, quite good, because I tested out my demos in the shop.
Okay.
And people would always be like, what's this?
That's good.
And I'm like, yes.
Well, what's this?
You know, that was my first foray into DJing in a way, where you get to, that's the best bit of it sometimes to me. You're testing out new demos, you're like, God, that didn't hit. Like, I need to put some more hi-hats in this section and like up the energy there and whatever. Like, you have to test it on people. It was a bit daunting, but also I was confident, potentially delusionally so, in what I'd made. And I think that's your protection, is that you have to love it. If you don't love it and then other people don't love it, if you love it and no one else likes it, you love it. And I'm like, it sounds so basic, but like, that's how I felt. I was like, so proud, like as a peacock, I'm like walking around like, yes. And so I went to Piccadilly Records and I dropped off 20. And then I get a phone call an hour later. We've just sold them all. Do you have any more? Can you come back?
That's a good phone call to get.
Oh my God. You know, and so there's obviously some nervousness, but again, like I'm okay with being uncomfortable. When it's like, I believe in what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good. I've told this story before, but I once went into Bar Vinyl in Camden. I think it was Hot Flush 3. It was like the one before we got a proper distributor.
Yeah.
And the guy put it on and he just looked at me and said, you need to get better at production.
Oh my God. What did, how did that feel?
It wasn't my tune. So I was just like,
oh yeah, no, true. Yeah.
Just need to get better at A&Ring labels. But
Did that spur you on though in some way?
Well, I knew it was a good tune, so I was like, yeah, right, mate, whatever. I think had it been one of my tracks, it would have been much more like disorientating.
Yes, that's a good word, actually. That's a good word. But that like delusional self-belief thing and like what you're doing is, because I, through Depeche Mode, because I toured with them a few years ago, I got to meet Flood. And we were in a car together. It was me, Daniel Miller and Flood in a car getting dropped off around London, having his car. I was like, if I could live stream this like now, this would be incredible. I was like asking all the questions.
I mean, you should have done like Fred again would totally have live streamed that.
I know. Yeah. Like, here we go. Like, you know, Instagram live. Yeah. And he gave me his number. He's like, I've got like a Nokia phone, but I do reply sometimes. I was like, cool. So we text and he invited me to a studio and I played him 3 or 4 demos from Dreamstate. I've never sweated or been so much I've been so nervous because I know he doesn't mince his words. And I'm saying this not to like say anything about him, but like I played him, I think it was Ballad with the Chemical Brothers, and he was like, he liked it without saying, but he was like, yeah.
Nodding along. Yeah.
And then played him like Love You Got, like early demo of it. And you know, Flood isn't a dance head. So what I'm relating this to is what you're saying is like having understanding in yourself, like that something's good. I was like, yeah, I was going for the concept of like bangers and ballads. And he basically said that, well, I haven't heard a banger yet. And I was like,
yeah, you have.
I might cry or this is going to spur me on to be like, I trust in dance music that this is good. I trust in myself that this is good. I trust in who I am as an artist now. Little Kelly wouldn't think sitting in a, you know, studio with Flood and him saying that would ever be a positive thing. But it actually was for me. I was like, I know what I'm doing and I trust that. And that's the growth. Because not everyone's going to like what you do or understand what you do. Even your heroes, even people that you respect.
Sure.
But that's where it takes this other level of like a self-assurance. And maybe sometimes that grit is also like what you need. You know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You have to be, I think, extremely self-confident to a sort of bloody-minded extent.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is easier when you're younger. I think actually it falls away a bit because I'm just tired. It feels like it gets harder, but then there's more of a sort of reward in that challenge of believing like what you know is to be good as you move through the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this recent album came out last year. We were talking off camera about the album campaign as a thing, generally speaking. And that's something which definitely has changed. Like it used to be, the release date was almost the start of the campaign, and now it's almost like the end, not quite, but like that's tends to be how people structure releases now. You do a bunch of singles, and then the kind of album is like kind of to tie it all up. So how's that been? Talk about the specifics of this recent campaign, and do you feel like it's still going on to any extent, or?
It's a funny one because up until Dreamstate, I actually found that for me, because I'm generally an album artist, like the campaign would start energetically at least once I release something. Then all the offers would come in. Then I'd be touring it for 2 or 3 years, even up to touring with Depeche Mode like 3 years ago, because that was still off the back of weirdly like in a song, But with Dreamstate, it felt a bit more pop in terms of how we went about.
It's a new different label for you as well, right?
Yeah, DH2, which is a new dance subsidiary of Dirty Hit, which for me is perfect because I wanted a sort of bigger independent label. And it's really hard. Like there aren't many labels.
Yeah.
So where do you go? You got like 1 or 2 options maybe if you're lucky. So I wanted someone who had like a bit more reach in terms of like size. Because Small Town Superstar has been amazing, but like it's in the name. There are like 2 people running it sometimes.
Right.
1.5 the rest of the time, and that's hard sometimes, right? So I think that for me it was a natural evolution, and I'm so grateful for that place. And talking about community, I've never felt so held in something before. Like Small Town, yes, on one level, but it's like me and Joachim against the world, which is beautiful. And he's got such great taste, and like so grateful for all that. But this is like, the actual artists on the label and the people who work at the label, they like cosset you. That is so necessary, these days. But yeah, in terms of Dreamstate and the campaign, we were like, we're going to release like the biggest song in terms of what might spread commercially, I suppose. Love You Got, which for me is probably the poppiest thing I've done. So we were just like, let's just put a stamp on it, put that out first. And,
right, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Big, amazing video with Samuel Bradley, all on film. The cover was on film. I wanted to recreate those album covers from the 90s, like Björk, Madonna, that was shot on a specific type of film, which actually doesn't exist anymore, but there's one that's close to it. Okay. Everything needed to be filmic and real and about community and moving your body and like all the best bits of dance and electronic worlds, but yeah, so we did it a few months out and built up to an album and then toured it. So that's like a more traditional sense. And I think that the music permeates beyond a date for me. And I'm very lucky to have fans that like actually buy records, buy merch, buy tickets, and are just continually there. And then it grows, from that inside out. So I don't know when something ends and it begins, really. But for me, I feel lucky that it just seems to sort of morph and change as time goes on. And as I said to you off camera, though, the album cycle is real. You're like, what is an album cycle? I'm like, well, it's when I'm showing up every day to interview, completely exhausted.
Endless press commitments. I have to say, I don't miss that particular side. I haven't done a proper album campaign for over 10 years now. And I have to, that bit of it, I know it's like, it's press day today. And it's just like, oh no.
You're like, I don't even want to speak. I don't know how this is going to go. Make another album.
I'm sort of supposed to be doing it at the moment, but I've actually been saying that for more than 5 years. So. I'm called. So basically, it was the 10th anniversary of my last album, and I wanted to release it on the 10th anniversary, and I just didn't get my together to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility for the 11th.
God, it's been 10 years. That's crazy.
Anniversary of it. But like I said, I'm also very romantic about the album format. Generally speaking, I absolutely view my output. Like those are the things that I think about,
that you work towards.
Yeah, right. And it's just a thing, and you've done it, and it's like, but like I said, the press days that go along with it are not always that great.
It's the opposite of creating, because they're different mindsets, right? Yeah. Live is one mindset, being in the studio is one mindset, press and interviews is a whole other thing.
Yeah, I think it's funny because a lot is talked about, the requirements of artists to market themselves these days, and how much it's much more on the artist now. I mean, it always was to a certain extent, but I think, the way, I think the social media is massively, sort of fan the flames of this. It seems there's a pressure to be kind of constantly on and constantly messaging, constantly having that consistency of message. How has that changed noticeably since your first record, which was in 2017? Like, has this got worse? If I can put it like that, like, how's it been for you?
I definitely see the change in that. I really do. It's not anymore just about the music. I will say this is one thing that I've like moved along with less and less resistance. So, it's like, this is the technology versus the artistry thing for me a little bit, where I was in a tough place. I was like, well, the music's good and I'm working super hard and I'm like taking it out there and I'm doing ticking all the boxes. But it is true that like we are in a place where branding and marketing is the way to get the music heard. So recently in the last few years, I've really just jumped on board with that a bit more. I'm not saying I'm like killing it or like excellent at it yet. But it is something that I'm very, very open to, and I've understood and I'm understanding more, and I'm up for. I'm not saying it's like easy or sometimes not a pain in the ass. Yeah. But I do understand it as being vital. Also, I do love mystery.
Yeah, so that's always the challenge, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. I think there is I think people are often very cynical about this and feel very kind of like feel like it's an onerous thing they have to do. I actually think that, like, you've got to basically find a way of doing it which is true to you as a person, but also in terms of what you're trying to communicate as an artist. And it's actually an incredible opportunity to do it, because I mean, previously, like, you'd have to wait for press day, right?
Yes.
And then you have to say the right things, and you're always misquoted. I used to drive me up the wall that they would put like exclamation marks on my quotes, and I was just like,
I'm not an exclamation mark kind of guy.
At one point, I had to. I remember, like, there was a point in which I told the person doing my PR, we have to ban exclamation marks from the transcripts of our interviews.
Changes a lot.
It just looks like the kind of like in smash hits going like, you know what I mean? But the great thing about social media actually is you can control it, right?
Yeah.
This is a good thing.
You've got your own narrative.
Yeah. It is a challenge doing it well and doing it consistently. Yeah. But I think it's preferable.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
I think it's positive. I think it's always hard work. It's just a different type of work.
Yeah.
And where you, like you say, like at the moment, the industry, you can have more control actually than ever in terms of everything from how you create something and how you put it out. Like, I do see this as an opportunity. I'm not saying it's taken me a minute to get, like, it has taken me a minute to get there. Because when things are shifting as you're still an artist and creating, that's like, takes you a minute to wrap your head around it. But I am embracing it, and I think it's a good opportunity for people. You'll always have to work hard no matter what. Yeah. And so, here we are. What are we going to do with that? As long as you're true to like who you are, what you want to create, that's still the core for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it is hard and you do have to work hard. We had Denise Devonish on a couple of weeks ago talking about mental health for artists. I mean, one of the things, actually, one of the quotes I pulled out from your previous interviews, we were talking about the necessity, or how far it should be necessary for labels to take care of artists and their mental health. Because I mean, because it's a hard job. You do have to work hard. There is a tendency, I think, just to kind of get the whip out and kind of flog artists until they, are dead, almost, sometimes literally.
Yes. So
talk a bit about that. I mean, what's your experience been, generally speaking, in this area?
Let's just say the first, when you work with smaller labels, for example, I had to work 45 hours a week to live. Yeah. No advances, nothing. And, I took more control on the back end. This is how people taught me to do it. I had a lawyer before I had a manager. I was thinking very much long term, and I was like sort of young enough and like excited enough to like be able to like do it for a bit. But certainly after a while, like, labels need to place value on you so you can go off and, I keep hitting the mic, which is annoying. I'm annoying myself. Audio wise, sorry. Expressive. yeah, the more you move through, it's like the value needs to be placed on the artist in having like advances that are reflective of what you need to really create. And for example, with this new label that I'm with, DH2, there's actually something that they offer you in the contract, which is a certain amount of money to go and take time off.
Really?
To go and take time away.
Wow.
To go and recover in the moments that you need to. And that sealed the deal for me in terms of, I already instinctually knew this was a great place, but to actually put your money where your mouth is as a label is huge. And I want everyone to know that, because this is a small yet significant example of what can be done. And I'll be honest, they're not the ones pushing me half the time. It's me. It's the pressure I put on myself. And that's why, to a degree, I'm good at what I do. Like, the drive is there, but I will say no one's really going to say to you, Kelly, could you just like stop working? Yeah, but actually, you know, they do encourage me to, because they understand that like having time off and taking a moment for yourself increases creativity and is only going to get like, just have a good feeling, like working with people. Like, if we want to do this in the long run, which we all do, it's about sustainability, I suppose. But I wanted to say that as an example because I'm not sure if that's public knowledge. And yeah,
I mean, that is unheard of. Honestly, it really is. But I mean, that's great. Wow. I'm
saying it so if any labels are listening, publishers, the ones who actually have all the money, put your money where your mouth is. Like, and even if it's like not that much money, it's having a clause in there that is someone seeing what is potentially going to be needed, because they understand the toll that this stuff takes. And there's no separation in my life between like personal, but like there's no separation. It's really hard sometimes. Yeah. Hard to maintain relationships, friendships, family, and that's the core of everything, right? So it's it does affect your mental health in ways not, you know, most people would say, oh, artists, you know, a lot of them are like mentally ill to begin with. No, it's coming into a nuts business and industry that takes away all of the things that keep you together as a person, because you don't have the time to nourish them or yourself. Yeah. That's what creates mental health issues. So,
yeah, I mean, that's something I talked about with Denise, is the degree to which artists are mad, or the degree to which the trope of the mad artist is in any way true or in any way helpful. Definitely, it's definitely not helpful. I mean, I think there is a grain of truth to it, but you know, the stereotype of it is damaging.
But is it not like mad? It's mad to be normal to me.
Right.
It's mad to go and work in a place that you hate for 50 hours a week and be miserable. Like, yeah. I think artists have got that whole trope against them because they've dared to step out of the norm. I don't actually think it's built on anything that's truth. But this is my opinion.
No, I think you're right. I don't think there's any more prevalence of, you know, mental health problems, because I mean there's just an epidemic of it in society at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes. But then you step into this thing, which is a machine that needs feeding.
Totally.
And
it's an unhealthy environment mentally. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's important to like be honest about that. So whilst your life seems great from the outside, oh, you're here, you're there. My mum the other day texted me, she's like, where are you right now? And I was like, oh, I've just been to like 4 different countries in 7 days. And she's like, oh, I wish I had your life. And I was like, so you want to go to 4 different countries in 7 days, do 20-hour days, and at the end of it, you actually haven't, and like not being really paid for it? She was like, oh wait, actually maybe not. But I'm happy to talk about this stuff because I think it's real. I think like with everything, like having a baby, I want to know, how is it actually? Tell me the truth. You know, there are beautiful things about it and then there are really hard things, and both things can be true at the same time.
Yeah. And the social media version is never the whole story.
No, never. And that's why community is important, because you talk to other artists about it. It's really hard to talk to people who don't do it because you're always going to sound like you're moaning.
Yeah, 100%.
How could they understand?
No one wants to hear that, do they?
Nah. And fair enough. And I've worked in hospitals. I've worked as a wait. I've worked when I wasn't doing that, and I'd always be so like, oh my God. But there's a reality to what we do that is like really hard. And I'm glad I'm choosing, and it is a choice. But yeah, Not going to beat around the bush about it.
You were a nurse previously, is that right?
Auxiliary nurse, yeah, in Christie's Cancer Hospital in Manchester, and then like a HCA before that in a nursing home.
Yeah, right. So that's a proper job. You know?
Yeah, exactly. You're dealing with like people passing away, and that perspective it gives you to live and just like go for it. I think that's spurred me.
Yeah.
So when you're like, oh, how was it going into a record shop handing any music? I'm like, yeah, easy, mate. Because I've just, I was looking after like someone who like was in their 30s who died. Like, I was talking about death. I really don't. I mean, I've got the Undertaker t-shirt. I was fine. But when you've seen that when you're young, it's like that incredibly healthy perspective, which is why I think in the West, more exposure and truth-telling about death, like, and how fragile life is like really important to not shy away from, because it really helps you to live well, I would say.
Yeah. Ozzy Osbourne died the other day. This is going to be going out in a few weeks, so it won't be quite as current. Was he a fan?
Yeah. Even down to, being a kid watching like MTV and
the Osbournes.
Yeah. Mad. I mean, everything he's done for music, working class hero.
Absolutely. Let's
go. Like, need more of those, And that was a time where it felt like people from those kind of backgrounds could come through and like think about the incredible music like Black Sabbath. Like, my God. But how beautiful that he got to play a final show. Like, that is the true artistry to the end there for me.
Yeah, that was almost Bowie-esque, wasn't it? Or Bowie-esque, or the correct pronunciation is. Like, that was a real, because it didn't even occur to me that I knew he was old and stuff, but like, it just made a lot of sense, Yeah.
I mean, he's probably chuffed that he got to 70 something,
Yeah.
With the life he lived,
Wow.
But it seemed like that's what I'm saying, like he lived his life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And kind of like made no apologies for like who he was, where he came from, and that gave a story to tell in a very authentic way. A lot of those voices are missing for me these days. So yeah, I would always want to celebrate someone from that background who had such impact on music. And I am a fan of so much music. Like, I would listen to System of a Down, like,
I was going to ask you about this. Yeah. Actually, before we get into that, I just wanted to make the point about Sharon Osbourne, because I mean, she was his manager for the longest time, and she is, I think, seen by quite a lot of people in the industry as being an all-time great manager. But she's a TV personality now, so I don't think people think about her like that. But I'm fairly sure, without knowing anything of the background, like that concert, I'm sure Sharon was like, we need to sort something out now. And like, she's a visionary, Absolutely. And having a great manager is another thing which is sometimes underrated. I mean, we talked a lot on the show about how having a bad manager is worse than having no manager at all, but having a good manager is like one of the best things ever, right? So
yeah, it's a really tough role, I think, to be a manager. And what I've come to realize is no manager is going to be able to fulfill all of the things that you think they should. I think, like anyone and any artist, anyone in the industry, people have strengths and they have weaknesses. I think it's unrealistic to believe that like anyone's going to fulfill like everything that you desire. And I do think that fundamentally the best artists, it's exhausting when I think about it, but are the ones who have the ideas, who are the visionaries, who are driving it. You're the CEO, but you're like the top of the pyramid. So without the support of other people, you can't be there leading it, but you're also the bottom. And if you crumble, there's nothing to It's a really difficult position to be in. But, so I think a good manager is like supporting your vision, and then bringing in the right people. I will say that's the thing, like the connections that you can't quite reach, don't have the time or the energy to reach, is like a big, big thing, taking certain amount of weight from you. But I am a very involved artist. Like, I'm not sure I'm the easiest person to manage because of that reason. But I think the right people want to work and see the value in someone being so involved in every aspect,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's been a long time since I had a proper full-time manager, but I realized at some point that actually really what I wanted was a business manager, like, because like there are so many different things that an artist manager, quote unquote, can be. And there was a point about, I don't know, it must have been about 10 years ago now or so, where I had a real kind of like kind of one of those moments where I was just like, this has been going great. And I looked at my bank account. I don't have any money. I don't have any money, you know?
Someone's gonna.
And I was like, that's actually what I need. That would be the most, that would add the most, you know, value to what I'm doing. But I mean, you know, there's lots of things to it. System of a Down. You used to be an indie kid, I believe. And I wanted to talk, what I wanted to talk about was getting into dance music and the importance of dance music and dance music as a culture. But tell me about System of a Down and why people should listen to them.
Oh gosh, it can't start that. I mean, for me, I just hate like being put in a box. Like, so I make this kind of music, I'm like this kind of person, or that's it. It's like, no, it's not true. I like all kinds of music, pop. I think I had though an epiphany when I used to listen to like a lot of boy bands, but I also, my first CD single was The Prodigy, Firestarter. So there's a little seed there, you know, of something. I must have been, 6, maybe? Got some pocket money, went to Woolworths.
Yeah.
And I was just, because I saw it on MTV and it was the video. Iconic.
Absolutely.
Oh my God. And I've come full circle. Like, I'm constantly listening to The Prodigy.
You tweeted a quote from Firestarter.
I should forget that actually people read that. Yeah, because yesterday I was just like on the way to the studio like, listening to The Prodigy, and I'm craving that like sounds that take you to the edge. Almost like what I feel is representative of like the anger of the world that's not being said. It's like the sheen, the shiny presentation of our lives. Like, it's all bullshit. Let's burn it to the ground. Like, this is where I'm at right now. I'm interested in what is gnarly. I'm interested in like the reality sonically of like things that make you express your anger in a healthy way and hold space for all the crap that's happening in the world that's wrong. And there's something about The Prodigy that like does all that for you without them saying anything.
Right.
And watching the Glastonbury set, it just like blew my tiny mind. So I think I've always been interested in artists that like move between those spaces of like sonically heavy stuff. And then what I love about System of a Down is like their dynamic shifts. I'll go from this like intimate, beautiful, poetic, melodic sensibilities to the most like hard thing. And the drummer's got like 30 drums, you know? Yeah. And that's what made me want to play drums, like watching them and listening to them and stuff. But yet there's tenderness still. And especially I think like a male band, like having that, maybe comes to that Welsh melodic choir thing. There's something that's like that vulnerability in the masculine that I like admire. So yeah, I've always loved like on the edge sounds and bands and people who take it to that place. And I think it's very much right now making its way into what I'm creating. So it's really fun.
That sounds cool. Yeah. So just to finish up, dance music. I mean, you've spoken quite persuasively before about how the challenges facing dancing and small venues closing. We've talked a lot about that on the show previously.
Yeah.
The headwinds that the kind of next generation of producers are facing, particularly in, you know, the lack of, you know, I guess spaces to be able to fail before they're put in front of big audiences, you know, because that's obviously a big part that small venues play. Talk about that a bit. Like what's the situation and how bad is it and what can we do about it?
Well, firstly, just to say that like the only way I discovered who I was as an artist and what I liked was going to like tiny venues for like a little bit of money, pocket money, you know, and meeting people and talking to them about their stories. And those intimate spaces are where you create that community and that sense of belonging and understanding. That's been fundamental in my journey. And then I look at like bigger bands like Depeche Mode, them going on the train with their synths, you know, on the underground to a 50 cap show. There would be no Depeche Mode without small venues. And I always use that as an example because now they just automatically play arenas and stadiums, you know, and it's an important part of the journey. What I feel is happening is that we have to be careful. We look at Glastonbury. You are not going to have headliners for the next 15 years if you don't nurture now the artists and the talent that's like up and coming. it's a knock-on effect for the future if we're not investing in this moment. So I do believe, for example, institutions like Glastonbury that give a lot to charity, but not necessarily music charities, could be reinvesting in the future of music. Right now, musicians are the charity. Artists are the charity. So I would love to see places like that reinvest. It's going to take the people in the industry to reinvest because no one else is going to do it. Live Nation, going to say like all the big ticket companies, agencies that artists employ everyone.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Literally true. Yeah.
That's all I have to say, really. In a way, artists employ everyone. The companies that have the money to reinvest in small venues, it only benefits them to do so. That's the only way I can see things changing. And it's like taking action to protect what we already have now. And I think it is a responsibility of the industry itself to do that. Also, the government, who seem to be trying, but not hard enough. You know, one of the biggest and only sort of exports of the UK, we don't really export much, is the music industry. It's worth like, what, 1.5 billion? Keeps growing every year. You'd think that the government would want to protect that export. If we're just talking about numbers and money, you know, which is how people communicate these days, let's just look at those facts. Then there's culture, the cultural aspect, you know, and when it was like the Olympics, the two things that were celebrated were the NHS and our music culture, and both things have been decimated. But if from today, the industry that has the money, the parts of it that have the money, reinvest in the future, it benefits everybody. And that's where I'm at on it personally.
With the small venues thing, how much of the problem is the dwindling audience for those venues? Because, I mean, there are cost pressures, and absolutely that's a major factor. I mean, I sort of think that if there was an audience that was willing to pay the requisite money, I mean, obviously that's a slightly loaded way of putting it.
Yeah, right? I'm like, yeah, go on.
I mean, I think that, well, anecdotally, people often say that festivals are what the audience wants now, particularly the younger section of the audience.
Right.
And to some degree, young people are perhaps intimidated to some extent by small, dark venues. Certainly, it seems like there is less of an appetite for them.
I think.
I mean, anecdotally, again,
right.
I don't have any hard dates on this, but like,
it's not been my experience at all.
Okay.
At all. If anything, it's like quite interestingly with DH2, for example, like those like indie kids who liked, for example, the 1975, now coming into the club space in a way that they didn't even know they needed. I'm not sure about the stats. And as you say, it's anecdotally, so I'm not 100% sure, but it's not been my experience. It's not that people don't want those experiences. It is true though that I don't think they can always afford it because it's just a really hard time to be a kid. Yeah. Sure. Monetary wise, which again, if things were subsidized by the industry and reinvested, people could lower their prices. That's what it takes reinvestment, you know, but I don't think it's for lack of wanting to be in a dark space with some sick music playing with your mate. Like,
I mean, it sounds good to me.
Yeah. I personally don't feel it's that. I could be wrong, but that's not been my experience at all. If anything, people are hungry to do it. I just get messages every single day from kids being like, I really want to come to this, but I can't afford it. So I will give out free guest lists privately to people on DMs. I'll do everything I can to get people there. It's not for the lack of want. It's for often the lack of funds. You know, my touring, my costs have gone up so much.
Yeah. No doubt.
The costs are insane, but my fees haven't really gone up.
Yeah, I mean.
So here we are.
Exactly. What are the biggest increases in costs? Like, just to get specific about that for a sec. Like what?
Flying, so traveling of any kind, whether it's ground transport, transporting equipment around, wages, because you can start working with people at a certain level. When you're at a certain level, then your level of production has to go up because you have to invest, and that's part of the job. But when you do that, you have to work with people who are higher skilled. Cool. When they're higher skilled, they charge more, but they put their prices up in terms of inflation. Yeah. Whereas your offers are sometimes less because of inflation. So that's the cycle.
Yeah, right. And people talk about ticket prices, but actually, if anything, they're too low, right? Because
100%.
no one's making any money, right?
100%. And I want to be able to play my live show. Now, this is the difference between me being able to continue to play my live show or not, if we want to get real about it. So it's not when the ticket prices go up, it's not because I'm making heaps of money and obviously I do make some money. There's some sustainability somewhere, but it's really hard to find. And I would say festivals are better for that than headline shows, for example. Headline shows, the offers are always less depending on where you're playing and what capacity is. But yeah, it's hard.
So dance music in particular has, I say in particular, but then as soon as I say that, then, it's obviously crucial for all forms of music. But let's talk about dance music because this is mostly a dance music podcast. Do you think that the music is being affected by that relative change, like the kind of shift of people's minds, if anything else, towards festivals, towards big stages? Do you think that's affecting the music? What are your general observations on the way it's affecting the art in massive quotation marks?
We talk about DJing.
Yeah, I suppose dance music is a kind of ecosystem. The majority of dance music that comes out is still DJ music, isn't it? So. Yeah, the majority for sure. This is interesting as a topic because I'm going to use Tomorrowland as an example.
They've become known for the theatrics of the moment more so than the music. I think it's a fair comment, and it's my judgment. No,
I played there once.
What was your experience?
It was, absolutely tallies with what you just said. Just the scale of it is incredible. It's like going to Disneyland or something. Literally, these enormous car parks outside. They're bussing you around everywhere. And I was playing on Dave Clark's stage actually.
Oh, sick.
It was ages ago now, but it was just this these enormous kind of plastic structures everywhere. It was not for me, I have to say.
Did you see loads? Is it loads of phones, or were people dancing?
I suppose, when was it? It would have been 2016 or 17. Okay. But even then, people were waving their phones around a bit. Maybe it hadn't reached a critical mass that it has perhaps now. But but it absolutely, it was very much the spectacle as opposed to what was happening.
The experience of
the speakers.
But I found it because, I saw that there was a fire and the main stage, which is the main spectacle, unfortunately, all that work that had gone into that was a horrible thing to see in any kind of festival, anything related to music that, gets destroyed, or it's really difficult to see. But what I did see that I thought was interesting was they rebuilt the main stage, and it was so simple. It was just an LED long screen and the DJ. And I thought, this is a sign of the times in terms of, this is ironically now, because of this awful thing that's happened, come back to the core of what we really feel like it should be about often, which is just the person, the experience of the interaction of the crowd with each other, no spectacles. It's just about the music and the DJ. And I know that can sound a bit boomer. I do think it can, because it doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to enjoy spectacles occasionally, and everyone can offer something different for sure. But really, because this world's so crazy, what I'm always thinking about is how people feel. And I'm sure coming away from that, not staring at the spectacle of fire and ice and whatever, just coming away having had your soul nourished in a way that's just with the human next to you, I think is what we need more than we even realize, even though people talk about it a lot. So I'm always thinking just about how is the feeling. And I think there was just something quite interesting about that scenario.
Yeah.
So I would say that it relates to your question as things have become much more of a spectacle. But some of the best moments I've had is just when it's you can't even see me on stage. It's those boos that take you back. So it's just about people interacting in a space, as opposed to sometimes I'm what are you guys even looking at? I don't, there's not much, it should be about the music. And I know it sounds very purist, but I think it just comes from a really innocent place of wanting people to have the best moment.
I don't think it sounds purist, or it shouldn't sound purist. It is music scene. Music should be the most important bit, right? Surely. Actually that Aussie gig is a kind of good example, right? Because I mean, that was just like, people were just there for the music. They just wanted to hear the songs, basically. And, you know, that seemed like kind of a joyous event.
Just
really.
being present, you know, it's cool also to like see, you know, your favorite DJ in the flesh, of course, like, and have these little moments. So I'm always like, where, like, kind of letting them know I'm also here. Like, I'm not like a robot, you know, I'm not yet turned into this like AI kind of, you know, I'm not actually there. I am here, but also like, let's just have a present moment thing. I don't know. I think there is still value in that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so. So, last question. Did you go to Charlie XCX's wedding the other day?
I was DJing.
Okay.
So no, I was going to go to the night thingy.
The context
Night
is she
do.
got married to the person who runs
Yes.
Kelly's label.
Yes. And Charlie is involved in management with me as well. So
Right.
it's like,
Okay.
But yeah, no, I was at a festival. It was really small and cool and like very unfussed, which I loved and I knew would be the case with those two. They're very chill.
Okay.
So I was kind of gutted to miss out on a little sort of like Dalston Hackney wedding moment, but they had a lot of fun and yeah, they seemed really happy. So like that was sweet.
Okay. Normally we don't do gossip stuff on the podcast, but okay. It's ready.
Hey ho, it's part and parcel of it though, right?
Right.
Come on.
Absolutely. Kelly, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank
it's been great.
you. Thanks for having me.
Music, not diving with Scuba.